In many Japanese homes, the entryway isn't just somewhere to take your shoes off. It has a slightly different job. It marks the point where the outside world stops and the home begins. Not in a grand or symbolic way, more in a practical, everyday way. You come in from the street, from work, from errands, from the weather, from other people's noise, and there's a small moment of separation before you step properly into the house. And once you start seeing the entrance like that, it becomes harder to ignore what your own one is saying. Because most homes don't become messy in one dramatic moment. They usually become messy through small permissions. A pair of shoes left exactly where they came off. Then another pair beside them. A bag placed by the door because you'll move it in a minute. Keys put down on the nearest surface. A receipt, a letter, a bottle of hand sanitizer, a parcel you haven't opened, something that needs returning, something that belongs upstairs but never quite makes it. None of it looks like a problem on its own. But by the end of the week, the first thing you see when you come home is a small collection of things that haven't been decided yet. And that has a feeling. You might have cleaned the kitchen. You might have tidied the sitting room. You might have made the bed and put the washing away. But if the entrance is crowded, the whole home can still feel slightly unsettled. Not dirty, necessarily. Just not calm. The entryway sets the tone before you've had time to think about it. It's the first message your home gives you when you walk in. If that message is, "There's more to sort out," you feel it before your coat is off, before you've made a cup of tea, before you've even properly arrived. But if the entrance feels clear, even in a very ordinary way, the house can feel easier to come into. This is why the Japanese-style genkan is such a useful idea to borrow from carefully. Not as decoration, not as a perfect cultural model, and not as some romantic picture of Japanese living, just as a very practical piece of design. The entrance becomes a threshold. Outside things are dealt with there. Shoes have a clear place. Bags, keys, post, and loose objects are not allowed to drift endlessly into the rest of the home. And because that boundary is clear, the house doesn't have to absorb quite so much of the day. The first rule is to limit the number of shoes. It sounds almost too obvious, but shoes are one of the quickest ways for an entrance to feel crowded. And most people don't leave shoes by the door because they're careless. They leave them there because that's exactly where the action happens. You come in, take them off, and by then your mind is already moved on. You're thinking about dinner, a message you need to reply to, the children, the washing, the dog, the next thing. So the shoes stay there. The trouble begins when the entryway quietly becomes long-term storage. One pair for work, one pair for walking, one pair for quick errands. Children's shoes, guest shoes, shoes that need cleaning, shoes that don't really fit anymore, but somehow still live by the door. After a while, the entrance isn't helping you arrive. It's holding a record of everywhere everyone has been. A calmer rule is this: keep only the shoes that are genuinely being used today or tomorrow near the entrance. For many homes, that might mean one pair per person. Maybe two, if the weather or your routine makes that more realistic. Everything else goes into a cupboard, a rack, a basket, or another storage spot that isn't right in the doorway. This isn't about being strict for the sake of it. It's about making the entrance easy to understand at a glance. When there are one or two pairs, the space looks intentional. When there are 8, even if they're lined up neatly, the area starts to feel like a holding zone. Your mind notices quantity before it notices neatness. So the aim is not to arrange too many shoes beautifully. The aim is to have fewer shoes asking for attention in the first place. The second rule is to give keys one fixed home. Keys are small, but they create a surprising amount of friction. When they don't have a place, you have to decide where they go every single time. One day they land on the kitchen counter. Another day they're on the hallway table. Then they're in a coat pocket. Then at the bottom of a bag. And eventually, usually when you're already trying to leave, the house turns into a search operation. That kind of stress is small, but it's not nothing. It adds a little sharpness to the beginning of the day. A fixed place for keys removes that whole pattern. It could be a hook by the door, a small bowl, a shallow tray, a drawer if you don't like seeing them out. The object itself matters less than the location. It needs to be close enough to the door that you use it before your attention gets pulled somewhere else. This is the sort of habit that works because it doesn't ask very much from you. You don't need to become more organized in some broad, impressive way. You just need one place where your hand knows to go. That's what good home systems often do. They reduce the number of tiny decisions you have to make when you're tired, distracted, or in a hurry. And once keys belong somewhere, they stop becoming part of the visual noise of the house. The third rule is not to put bags on the floor. A bag on the floor feels harmless at first. You come in tired, put it down for a moment, and tell yourself you'll move it later. And sometimes you do. But often, the floor has a way of turning temporary things into part of the room. A work bag, a school bag, a shopping bag, a tote with something to return, a parcel waiting to be opened, a gym bag that needs emptying but not quite yet. The floor becomes a waiting area for tasks you haven't chosen a time for. And once one thing is there, another thing can join it, without feeling like a big decision. There's also a feeling it gives the entrance. Bags on the floor make a home feel as if people have arrived, but not quite landed. Like the day has come in with you and is still standing in the hallway. A better rule is to create an upright place for bags. A hook, a peg rail, a narrow shelf, a bench, a small basket. A corner that is clearly meant for that purpose, not just the nearest bit of floor. It doesn't have to look impressive. It only has to complete the action. Because there's a difference between dropping a bag and putting a bag away. One leaves a little task behind. The other closes the loop. That matters especially at the entrance, because the entryway is full of transition moments. You are arriving, leaving, carrying things, answering questions, thinking about the next step. Those are the moments when habits either become easy or disappear. So the system has to be simple enough to use when you're not at your best. The fourth rule is to wipe the door area quickly. Not deep cleaning. Not a full hallway clean. Just a quick reset of the bit of the home that collects the outside world. The entrance gathers more than we notice. Dust, grit, rain marks, leaves, bits from shoe soles, damp patches around the mat. In the UK, especially through autumn and winter, the area around the front door can start to look a bit dull and gritty without anyone doing anything wrong. That's just what happens when weather meets daily life. But a quick wipe or sweep changes the feeling very quickly. 1 minute can be enough. Shake the mat, sweep the small patch where shoes come off. Wipe the threshold. Clear the little shelf or surface where dust gathers. It's a small action, but the entrance is a small area with a big effect. A little dirt there can make the whole home feel less cared for. A little cleaning there can make the whole home feel fresher than you'd expect. There's a useful principle here. Clean the places your eyes meet first. You won't always have the time or energy to reset the whole house. Most people don't. But you can often reset the first square meter. And that first square meter changes how you read the rest of the space. The fifth rule is to create a landing zone. Most entryways become messy because they're being asked to handle too many things without any clear system. Keys, wallets, sunglasses, post, receipts, headphones, dog lead, lip balm, gloves, reusable bags, things to return, things to take upstairs, things to remember tomorrow. When there's no defined landing zone, every flat surface starts applying for the job. A landing zone is simply a small, controlled place for the things that come in and out with you. A shallow tray is often enough. The important part is that it stays controlled. It should not become a deep junk tray where objects quietly disappear for 6 months. It should be small enough that when it starts to fill, you notice. If it can hold an entire month of random things, it is probably too big. You might divide it informally. Keys in one corner, wallet or purse in another, letters that need attention in a small stack, something that has to go out tomorrow placed where it can't be missed. The point is not to create a complicated sorting station by the door. The point is to reduce ambiguity. Because when something enters your home and you don't know where it belongs, it tends to stay visible. And when enough things stay visible, the home starts to feel busy, even if it isn't truly dirty. A landing zone gives temporary things a temporary home. Not everything has to be dealt with the second you walk through the door. That would be unrealistic. But things do need to be stopped from spreading. The sixth rule is to remove anything that doesn't belong in the entryway. This is where many homes quietly lose their sense of order. The entrance begins as a practical place. Then it becomes a convenient place. Then, slowly, it becomes storage for anything without a proper destination. Old umbrellas, bags of donations, sports equipment, unopened parcels, tools that were used once and never put back, outgrown shoes, seasonal decorations that didn't quite make it to the loft, cleaning products placed there temporarily and then accepted as part of the scenery. The entryway has a simple job. It should help people arrive and leave. If an item doesn't help with either of those things, it may not belong there. That doesn't mean the entrance has to be empty or cold. A plant, a picture, a small bench, a warm light, a simple rug. These things can make it feel welcoming. But the functional objects need to earn their place. A useful question is, would I naturally look for this here? If the answer is no, the item is probably just passing through. And passing through objects create a particular kind of clutter because they don't suggest a clear next action. A pair of shoes tells you what to do. Keys tell you what to do. A coat tells you what to do. But a random cable, a half-open parcel, and a bag of things to sort don't really tell you anything. They just sit there, quietly asking to be dealt with. Removing non-entryway items can make the space feel cleaner without much cleaning at all. You're not just moving things around. You're making the purpose of the space clear again. The seventh rule is to reset the entryway every evening. This is the small habit that keeps the other rules from fading after a few days. A tidy entrance in the morning is pleasant. A tidy entrance at night is protective. Because by the evening, the day has left traces. Shoes are out. Post has arrived. A bag has been dropped. Something has been put down just for now. The home has taken in the movement of everyone who passed through it. A short evening reset stops that movement becoming tomorrow's clutter. It doesn't need to be a big routine. Put shoes back within the limit. Hang bags. Place keys where they belong. Clear the landing tray if it needs clearing. Throw away the obvious rubbish. Move anything that doesn't belong there to the room where it does. 2 or 3 minutes is usually enough. The easiest way to make it happen is to attach it to something you already do. After locking the door, after brushing your teeth, after turning off the downstairs lights, after getting things ready for the next morning, habits become much easier when they are joined to an existing rhythm, rather than floating around as one more thing you have to remember. The evening reset also gives you a quieter morning. You come downstairs or leave for work or open the front door, and the entrance is not asking you to fix yesterday before you begin today. That is a very ordinary kind of calm. But ordinary calm is often the kind we actually need. Not a perfect home, not a home that looks untouched. Just fewer unfinished messages waiting at the door. And this is the deeper reason these entryway rules work. They're not really about shoes, keys, trays, or bags. They're about reducing the amount of thinking your home asks from you. A chaotic entryway creates decisions at the moments when your energy is often lowest. When you've just come in, when you're trying to leave, when your hands are full, when someone is talking to you, when it's raining, when you're already late. That's when the system has to work. Not in the calm, imaginary version of your life where you have plenty of time and everyone is patient. In the real version. The version with wet shoes, missing keys, shopping bags, school bags, post on the mat, and someone needing something from you right now. That is why small, visible rules tend to last longer than big intentions. A shoe limit is easier than keep the hallway tidy. A key bowl is easier than stop losing things. A landing tray is easier than deal with all the post properly. An evening reset is easier than waiting until the entrance annoys you enough to clear it. Good systems lower the emotional cost of doing the right thing. They make order feel less like a performance and more like the natural next step. And the entryway is a good place to begin because it is the first scene of the home. You don't need to reorganize every cupboard. You don't need matching storage. You don't need to redesign the hallway. You don't need to become the sort of person who enjoys tidying at the end of a long day. Start with the place where the outside world enters. Limit the shoes. Give the keys a home. Keep bags off the floor. Wipe the doorway. Use one small landing zone. Remove what doesn't belong. Reset it before bed. These are modest actions. Almost too modest to seem important. But the first thing you see has a quiet influence on everything after it. When the entrance feels calmer, the home begins differently. And sometimes, changing that first small space is enough to make the whole house feel easier to live in.